Hello, everyone. In the next 30 minutes, we would like to explore the tension and the opportunity between the ability to innovate and the need to deploy and what it actually takes. To open, I would like each of you to introduce yourself and share how you support energy innovation, and also in one line, what helps partnership across this energy value chain to work better, to scale new solutions without getting stuck on risk. So please go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Dr. Yael Harman. I'm the head of R&D in the Ministry of Energy, as I was just presented. So we support through funds we give both for developing prototypes and for pilot and demonstration. I think it's in the next question, so I won't go into details of what we can do better. We try to support the whole value chain in the energy market, and we mostly focused on deep tech and less on software. We try to be there for companies where they are early stage and have less money and less chance for investment.
Hey everyone, I'm Roy Fuhrman and I'm the Managing Director of Doral Energy Tech Ventures, which is the corporate innovation and investment arm of Doral Energy. So Doral Energy is a global renewable energy developer. We develop renewable energy projects here in Israel, in the US and Europe, solar PV, energy storage, biogas and so on. I joined the company basically to set up the corporate innovation and investment fund. Since then we've been proactively investing across energy and climate in 24 portfolio companies in Israel, in Europe, in the US and Singapore. Most of them are deep tech, only one software investment, even though I think there is some blurred line between these two. The way we collaborate in engaging with the ecosystem is, first of all, to become a player in the market, and we hold the position that collaboration is the way to go forward. We have our own worldview, we have our own capital that we can contribute, but at the same time, in order to actually succeed and build these startups, we need to collaborate, and especially with complementary folks like other corporations, other financial institutions, and so on. And later on to become the potential beta site to demonstrate technologies and maybe to deploy them at a greater scale down the line. As a project developer, we develop project less of an R&D effort, but more of project.
Hi everyone, so I'm Don Bremeler from Bremeler Energy. I'm the co-founder of Chief Business Officer of the company. We've been around since 2012, commercializing our technology. We're a thermal energy storage technology. We've started to think of the idea, as Lior said before, there was even a market for it. And we went through the different steps of commercializing our technology, from the first lab testing to commercial projects where we are today. If I have to state one thing about collaborations, so commercializing a technology is not something you can do by yourself. You have to have the right partners along the way to support it, if it's capital, if it's giving the infrastructure to demonstrate your technology, and the most important part, you need someone else to say that he likes your technology, that it works, and that it brings value. Without having this third party or partners along the way with you, it's very difficult to get to this finish line, so we need to find the right parties to connect to make this a success.
Thank you. And hi, I'm Lilach Danewitz. I'm Director of Strategy and Partnerships at NTT Innovation Lab here in Israel. So NTT, for those who don't know, it's a Fortune 100 company, a huge Japanese corporate, the leading telco and mobile operator in Japan. Also one of the top 5 IT service providers and system integrators in the world. NTT, with revenues of more than $100 billion a year and more than 300,000 employees worldwide. We have a lot of activities around the energy sector. I think one of the most interesting ones is the fact that NTT is the third biggest data center service provider in the world. This is why we also here at NTT Israel, we focus a lot of our activities and search for new technologies in the energy sector, specifically for data centers, but not only. And I think, I mean, within NTT Israel, what we do is we look for new technologies in the Israeli ecosystem to bring to the NTT universe, to bring them, to take them global. And basically, we also support our three of our corporate investment arms in investing in Israeli technologies. And I think in this context, in the context of this panel, I think we are more of the NOAK than the FOAK. So the like scaling it. We're good scaling partners for Israeli technologies, and we'll talk about it more in the panel.
Okay, thank you. Another question to you all. What does a success look like when deploying a first-of-a-kind project or implementing new technology? And how do you measure it beyond just technical performance?
I guess that for us, we want to see a company that is building something that is scalable. This is one, so not very tailor-made, but something that could really scale globally and could be relevant for NTT and for its customers. We also wanted to see, and this kind of refers to the presentation made by Lior from Grove Ventures, we want to see this technology aiming, so the product to be ready for what's going to happen when it's ready to be launched, right? So not for necessarily for today, but for what the market entails in the upcoming future.
I think success in first of its kind and down the road is different. The first of its kind, what you want to see is you want to see it working, you want to see your technology delivering, mainly technically. You want to see it creating some value financially. But when you go about talking about success for the end game, which is being a NOAK, or in other words, a bankable technology, that's a different ball game. You need to go to a place when you come to the door of a commercial bank and get a non-recourse financing for your project. That will be a success for this, and the road between the first of its kind and fully bankable solution is quite long.
Simply put, on time, on budget, preferably below budget, and perform by specs. This is, if I need to really simply put, what could be considered a success. I think that more so, there are some periphery KPIs for such projects, which are permitting issues, ticking the box on regulation or statutory planning, in order for us to replicate and to copy-paste it to reach the end of a kind. So sometimes this heavy lifting at the beginning will dramatically serve you down the line. And the way that we think about scale is not necessarily on the size of a project, but more of the core of technology that can become number of projects or numerous, or that we can, for example, develop a new project or a new pipeline of projects based on this core technology. It doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to go bigger at scale. It just means that we can deploy it across the globe or whatever territory that you want to do that.
For us, many of the technologies we choose to invest in has a strong regulatory barrier that they need to crack. As even someone that sits, some of the people that sits here know on their project. So if they are able to really break the glass of the regulatory barrier, it's very important because they open the door for other companies. But then the next stage, which is very hard for us to see, is the technology that was developed but never reached really the market, or it gets to the market too late, although they were the first. So speed is very important, and to have a very good management, marketing, and CEOs, so they can lead the companies, because sometimes technology, most of the times, the technology part is not enough, is completely not enough. So to have a really strong management team that can bring the technology to a value.
Okay, I would like to address how new technology is combined in the finance of projects. From my perspective, I'm from Sangro, who, for those who don't know, it's a leading energy company. We sell energy storage systems, inverters, and MVS systems. And not long ago, large-scale storage systems were relatively new to the Israeli market, and Sangro, as a global leader, had to go ahead and bring its worldwide experience to the Israeli market and to the Israeli financing team and developers. And in that in mind, I would like to refer this question to Roy. As a developer, what level of technology maturity do you require before integrating into a commercial project? And under what condition would you consider taking the risk of a first-of-a-kind solution?
I can share the story of energy storage systems because I think it's an interesting reality check for ourselves, because we speak about innovation and new emerging technologies and so on. But just to follow, for example, lithium-ion technology as energy storage system, which for us could be like very boring, like all technology, but for the banks and for the insurance companies, it's a new technology. And now we needed to go through a process of more than a year, I think around 18 months, to educate the banks or the financiers into this new technology that it calls lithium-ion. And for us, it's like old news for I don't know how long, like a few years now. So it is to show that, and also from the grid perspective, is also a new capability that all of a sudden connected to the grid, and they also need to adapt into that. So similar goes for us if we used to develop projects for PV projects, and now we have project of PV plus energy storage, we introduce a new capability. So from the banks, for example, they can finance what they know, PV, but now we need to educate them on this new capability, lithium-ion storage. And in addition to that, so you may find this type of hybrid financing. They can finance what they know and to take a little risk on the thing that they don't know. Now, in terms of new projects and new and emerging technologies, long duration energy storage, electrolyzer technology for hydrogen, or you name it, I think here, to the best of my understanding and working with a lot of corporations around the globe, there is only a level of risk that corporation would be willing to take from their balance sheet. So if we are speaking about a new technology, a new emerging technology that the banks will be struggle to finance, so it means that you need to come with an all equity project. You can get some financing from grants or something like that, but basically it's an all equity project. Corporation will be willing to take some risk. And bear in mind that we are speaking about an energy infrastructure project, which means the core technology should operate for 15, 20, 25 years. So it means that now a corporate needs to take some bet on a startup. Even if you raise $300 million, you are still a startup. And we're talking about an infrastructure project that should operate for 20 years. So there is sort of like inherent mismatch sometimes between the corporate and the startup. In such a case, I would say it depends, because there are some technologies that we can easily deploy, relatively easily deploy. For example, cleaning robotics for a solar park. The cost of error is not that big, so we can try it. And there are some other layers to that. Or for example, on the agrivoltaics world, agri-PV, the dual use of the same land, or the coexistence of agriculture with solar PV. So we can experiment a lot of new stuff there, new tracking systems, new installation methods, and so on. The cost of error is not that big. But if you want to, for example, build a first of a kind 60 megawatts, I don't know, or 80 megawatts hydrogen project, that all of a sudden the capital expenditures become a few dozens of millions, it becomes far more challenging. So here you need to be extremely creative with the capital stack that you are bringing into the table, and to think about it, what you can bring as a startup. And often enough, the startup has become the developer themselves in order to demonstrate their technology. And this is not something that's neutral to have or to do, because your DNA as a technology company is to develop the product and not necessarily developing the project. And I think that maybe you can even elaborate on that. You know, startups realize that might be even faster for them to develop the project and then affiliate investors into the project, and not vice versa, and try to convince someone that will buy your product. This is not the natural thing to do, but in the reality, it's what we see more and more.
Anything to add on that, or we can move on?
No, I think, again, it's a matter of risk. At the beginning of the commercialization process, there is a lot of risk. Risk could be investing in a first-of-its-kind project, investing in developing a first-of-its-kind project. And when you talk about deep tech technologies or technologies that are infrastructure and not software, as was said, or easy to prove materials, then it's a lot of investment, which is with very high risk. So in this case, yeah, either you need to count on the startups' resources, which are not always there, or you need to find others that will deploy these high risky resources. And this is something which is not easy to do. A lot of things like debt mechanisms and others that we discuss are not relevant at this stage. And you need to find either the resources in-house, or you need to bring someone to the journey with you from the beginning, and it's a long journey.
Okay, that brings me to the next question to you, Doron. Brand Miller has already delivered commercial projects in Italy, US, and Israel. How were these projects financed? And how do you find that investors and off-takers truly understand the value of your thermal storage technology?
So we really started, over 12, 13 years ago to commercialize, or let's say to prove this technology that we have, which is, as I said, it's a long-duration energy storage technology. We started with funding to do the first stages of proof of concept, let's call it, lab testing, demonstration plans. We did it either by our own resources or resources that are available to different chief scientists, the Ministry of Energy. I think we have good tools for that in Israel, and we use almost all of them, some of them a few times. And then we started to say, okay, now we need to scale up. So we need to find our beta sites, our ways to test the technology in a real environment, connected to a customer. And there are two challenges there. First, find a customer willing to take in and use the technology, which is, in our case, really interfacing inside their core process of heating their plants, supplying energy. We integrated this into a 400 megawatt combined cycle, powering Tuscany, so things that could cause some real damage. So that's one challenge, finding the host site for that, and then finding the funds to finance those millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars of investment to do the scale up, this real live proof of concept. And then we started to use other tools like larger funds, like the Bird Foundation, like multinational funds that give some of the support. We also needed to find the right partners like the New York Power Authority we did in New York, or Enel in Italy, to really pitch in and also invest millions of dollars. And we also have to invest it from our own pocket. This is the bigger challenge. And this is another step in the way. And now we're getting to a phase of commercial projects. And then we're starting to look at customer which is paying, grants that are financing decarbonization projects, where, again, in Israel, it's not very strong. There are not very strong tools for that. Loan guarantees, again, not in Israel. So we had to go outside to European entities, to the EIB, for example, to green banks and other type of innovation, EIC funding, to support and make these projects attractive in terms of the returns and the value to the customers.
Okay, Yael. The ministry has long supported innovation through programs like NOAK, Halutz, BIRD, and others we all know. Yet most of these capped by $2 to $3 million and are not enough to enable become commercial. What structural changes, tools, policy shifts we need to help the technology move beyond R&D into large scale?
Okay, so before, it's a good opportunity to say that hopefully, probably by the end of this month, our tender for companies for pilot and demonstration and Halutz and Adgama, so for prototype and for demonstration, is open in the air. And this is the small grant you mentioned. Also, the Bird fund is open now for proposals. So we hope to see a lot of proposal for funds. But as we see, like Brand Miller just explained, it's the one just explained, these funds are not enough. It's clear to me. It was actually clear, I think, I don't know, for many years, but I think we really need to put our efforts to make this project, to give loans, like governmental loans, for banks to give loans for this project. So the problem is getting those loans. And as Rory mentioned, if you have a lithium ion that, of course, definitely cannot submit to our grants because it's such an old technology and it cannot, and it's not bankable, that's a huge problem, and it's clear in all fields, in all new technologies. So in my point of view, that's it, it's matured, but for the banks, it's completely new. So we need to build a tool for giving loans, because to just give more and more grants, it's not sustainable. We have to have it through loans, and that, I think that will help a lot, and then it will be much better.
Another question to Yael. In the light of the post-October 7 urgency, we can see rising trend of personal energy security, such as also at Sangro we see the demand to residential energy storage solution, and also on the national level, the need of resilient energy infrastructure. What concrete steps is the ministry taking to support the scale-up of the local technology beyond R&D, and can we expect new instrument to close the first-of-a-kind funding gap?
So first, the ministry is promoting very strongly now the rooftop and 100,000 rooftop. So trying to have more decentralized renewable energy. It was very bothering to see all the generators that were bought instead of solar and storage. It's much more expensive, but still it's better. And I saw the Public Utility Authority struggling to help and overcoming this gap. So to make the solar panels more attractive, to give more grants, I think the urban tariff that they increased, they also try to help in bringing the ROI faster. So although the tariff is not the same, they make the return on investment faster in the first few years. So just to give more incentives to install. I think also before the war we were talking about Chashmal Kasher, so kosher electricity. That little bit sounds like a joke to people that are not ultra religious, and what's the point of it? But then it opened our mind to the fact that actually neighborhoods, cities, building would like to have independence for several hours, and it's something that needs to be done to allow the use. So if a building, okay, my building, we have all the tenants has enough money to build the energy storage and PV. And if someone will tell us that we can take this electricity into our homes and divide it by the neighbors and use it in case of emergency, that will be a big incentive. So we need to know, to find the right regulation to allow the really usage of the PV on our rooftop, that it's not just for private homes, but also for shared homes. That will help a lot.
Lilach, you have a vast experience in introducing technology into NTT. Building a first-of-a-kind plant is a complex, not mention the of-scaling and replication. It involves multiple units. Can you please walk us through the approaches and what should startups do when they plan to work together with you?
So, okay, first of all, I mean, although NTT invests a lot in R&D and development of a first-of-a-kind projects, including in energy, by the way. NTT invests around $3.5 billion a year in R&D in general, and in a few energy projects, including futuristic projects like producing solar energy from space and transmitting it to Earth and so on. I think that in the context of the Israeli ecosystems and bringing technologies coming from Israel, we are a better partner in the NOAK, not the first of a kind, but the next of a kind, like the scaling part. So I think that for startups, when they're ready to scale, when their product is ready, is working, and so on, and started sales, and they're looking to go global, I think that one of the key success factors is choosing the right partners for that, for scaling. the right investors, the right channel partners, and so on. And I think in this context, NTT is a great partner, both as a scaling partner to go globally. NTT is in almost 100 countries with vast global activity, and can also be a good investor. I mean, we also invest in some of the technology companies we work with. In the past 4 years since our inception, we've closed more than 20 transactions with Israeli startups, and did like dozens of POCs, including in the energy sector. I have to admit that the projects in the energy sectors and the POCs are kind of longer term, typically, especially where it comes to infrastructure projects, and not just like the software, which is much easier, faster to integrate, right? And I think in this sense, if you think that we could be a good partner, we'd love to discuss. We would like to see the maturity of the product, the scalability, the ability to also to support, to have like the financial strength and to support the growth, and the scale up. And we're a good partner to enter into, not only in Japan, all over the world, I think. And in this sense, we are working with a few Israeli startups and looking a lot in the technologies, especially on the data center side, from energy efficiency to energy management to cooling systems, and so on. We take these technologies and can basically leverage them to the world.
I see that we are a little bit short in time, so let's try to do it shorter. NTT has the decarbonization target. Can you share an example of a solution in this field that you're actively scaling, something that moved beyond pilot phase, is now being replicated across your operation?
So generally speaking, at NTT, we have hundreds of data centers around the world. So for example, we do put a lot of effort on sustainability and carbon awareness and responsibility. And we try to both make the energy greener. So for example, we use green energy in some of the data centers. Another good example, in Germany, we kind of reuse the heat generated by the data center to heat the nearby village close to the data center, and we can scale it to the world. And we are looking at technologies, including from Israel, for cooling of data centers and for other purposes.
Okay, so let's have a final round of questions. To all of you, if you could offer one piece of advice to a startup looking to deploy a first-of-a-kind energy solution, what would it be?
That's a good question. There are a lot of advice that you can look back and say, it was a good idea. I would say first, try to focus what you're doing. Try to bring something very clear and prove something. Because a lot of times the startups, you want to prove a lot of applications and different use cases. We need to choose one, to focus on it, to be very clear of what we are trying to achieve, and then find the right partners to help you grow it and scale it. The right partner is really the key to succeed, because it's not going to be on time, it's not going to be on budget. You need to find the ones that are willing to understand that and take the long route with you, at least from my experience.
We are extremely excited about this opportunity of first of a kind, because basically we speak about energy transition, and the transition is exactly through this first of a kind that eventually will become the N of a kind. So we are really excited about this asset class, emerging asset class of the first of a kind. I think that sometimes we try to save money in bypassing some of the planning. And for example, digital twin for the site that you are planning is extremely important. And as long as you can bring like a tier one EPC that validate the numbers, validate the assumptions, and validate the site in order to come up with a third party that can actually serve and pitch these projects alongside with you, I think it's extremely important. And lastly, the way you think about fundraising on the top level as a VC investment, think about the same syndication for the asset class to invest in this first of a kind. We have the tendency to have shortcuts, and shortcuts is a massive pain. So as long as you can avoid from them and to have a detailed planning, and only then execute, and also preserve cash as much as you can, because delays are statutory delays, permitting delays can delay it in a quarter or two. For a corporate that work with you, nothing has changed, all good. It's only like quarter delay, but for you and for your runway, it's going to be crucial. So be extremely cautious on cash.
So in addition to that, I would say that if you can find a governmental partner, I mean that if it's a first of a kind, let's say the first agro-PV project, because the first one in Male Gilboa, they came to us, we became enthusiastic, we took into partnership the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Treasury, Land Authority. So if you can, and then it moved all the agro-PV so much faster forward. So I think if you are able to come and explain why is this first of a kind is going to change the market, and this is why you need to be partners, and then get the partner not just as funds. Okay, it's much easier to get the funds, but if you can get the partner to be really engaged, like the electricity authority, the electrical company, which is very hard, but if you can get a real like a partner that is the regulator, then it would be much easier.
I just think that you need to focus on two main things. One is to understand the customer, understand the problem that you're solving, really understand it. We see in the data center space that sometimes there aren't a lot of people that are working in the data center space in Israel. Therefore, it's harder for them to fully understand the pain. And second is to wisely choose your partners for growth that see eye to eye and are not limiting your growth potential and scalability, but only opening doors and can really help you grow and support you throughout the way.
Thank you all. I think we're done.